So let's do it. So it's 30 minutes altogether, right? So let's just blend everything, just ask questions as we go, because it's we have, sorry? 20 minutes altogether.
Take your time to present. We want
Right.
to say.
Thanks. So it's a joint work with Mina, who is here, over there. And usually you say, you know, Mina is a graduate student at Berkeley, and usually you say, oh, she did all the work, and you don't really mean it. This time it's true. Mina did all the work over the last couple of years with Leif, who is our supervisor at Berkeley, and I've literally seen the paper for the first time last week. So thank you for having my name on it. We're going to talk about Pay It Forward, but I want to start with the life-changing event that happened to me a few months ago. I was visiting Singapore, very nice place. I don't know if you've been there. It's really nice. They treated me well. I was there for a couple of weeks. They fed me. One day after dinner, I went back to the hotel. I went alone, and I went to a bar. Starts good, right? It was an open-air bar, so you know the weather is nice. It's warm. You can sit outside. It's really nice. It was kind of U-shaped, and there was a band playing. Really nice experience. I drank a bit, and then a couple showed up. They were clearly tourists. You could see that you know they were dressed as if they are accountants that come to work, and they ordered 2 beers. Now, something that you need to know about Singapore is that a beer costs $15. Right, that's the less nice part about it. So they ordered the 2 beers, and the beer come, and they don't have enough money. They don't have a credit card with them. You know, they start telling. Then I understood why they're dressed like this. They're Germans, and you know, they're missing $5. So they started. You know, it's really unpleasant, right? Should we give it back or not? And then I had, you know, really uncharacteristic to me. I decided to give them $5. You know, it's as an economist, it's like we don't do that, but I offered to pay the $5, and they hesitated probably because they said, "Oh, now we have to talk with this weird guy." And you know, I hesitated because you know they were kind of old couple about my age, so it was kind of weird. But we did that, and we started talking with each other. Turned out,
did the beer help?
The beer helped a lot. It was interesting that you know, and probably because of the alcohol, because the guy was at a car dealership in Hamburg or something like that, which usually I wouldn't find that interesting. But it was a very pleasant evening, a very pleasant experience, and now I'm trying to be a nicer person to people. That's the moral of this, and that's what we're going to look at with this paper. So we had some work on pay what you want in the past, and you know, it's done in the real world. Radiohead were the most famous example, first example that other people followed, but many people use pay what you want. Pay what you want basically means you go to the store, you buy a product or a service, and you decide how much you want to pay for it. So Radiohead example was, you know, they released their album, and you could download it for whatever price you wanted. Other people followed, and the reason we have this picture is that we did one with roller coaster. It's not really a roller coaster, some ride in Disney, but other people did it. What we're going to do today is actually look at something that is similar to that, but a bit different. So we want to know what influence, how much people are paying, and we're going to use something that is called Pay It Forward. Pay It Forward means that, oh, it's a long name. I wanted to say your name, but it's
Holiday.
Holiday, right. So this guy shows up, and instead of deciding how much to pay for the product himself, he decides how much to pay for the next person, right? So we tell him, the person before you paid for you, and you're going to pay for the next person. Now, if you do any reasoning, economic reasoning, it's just the same, right? So if you pay yourself, basically you're giving some money to the seller. It doesn't matter if you pay it yourself or if you're paying for the next person and the last person. Basically, you get the product, the seller gets the money, right? It's exactly the same, apart from some kind of different framing that we thought might change the way people behave, might change the way people do this. And you can think about many reasons. I don't have time to go over them, but you know, if it says something about me, what others are paying, we'll try to cover all of it. So I told you that we're going to use the Pay It Forward. We're going to compare Pay It Forward to Pay What You Want. Who thinks that Pay What You Want is going to be more effective than Pay It Forward? Who thinks it's going to be the same? Who thinks that Pay It Forward will be better? Yeah, you're right. I didn't guess it, but that's true. The first one is in this cartoon art museum in Oakland, right? San Francisco, it's the same, all the same. The Bay Area, I should say. It's in the Bay Area. This cartoon art museum is running this Tuesday, pay what you want, for 10 years now. Basically, until now, if I understood correctly, they had a box and people could put money and they put nothing. People just don't give money, right? So the reason that non-profit like museums do it is that they want that everyone will be able to come and see it, right? Even people who don't have money. So they had this box over there on Tuesday. You could put money. Virtually nothing came in. And here's what we did. 2 different treatments. In one of them, they got the upper message, but it was much more clear to them how this is done. So instead of just a box, it was a message that they got. How did they get the message?
We delivered it directly.
So you spoke with them and they paid to you.
I did it for research assistant.
Right, and they paid to the research assistant, whatever they wanted. Instead of putting in a box, they paid it to the research assistant. So we have pay what you want and we have paid forward. Those are the 2 treatments. And that's the first finding that we have. People give more when it's paid forward. So when you're told the last person paid for you and now you're paying for the next person, people pay more, which I think is interesting, right? So you kind of evoke, remember my story from Singapore, right? You kind of make it, instead of just, I need to be nice to the museum in this case because they invested effort, they are nice to me or whatever. Now it's also, I need to be nice to my peers, to the other visitors. Second experiment, just a bit of a different wording, just we wanted to see the robustness of this, and it worked again. Right, so
the pay what you want, was that anonymous, and was the pay it forward as a person, or did they both have a person looking at you in the eyeballs?
So you did not see the other person. We have an experiment later on, if I'll get to it, in the lab, in which we do have, you see the person. Okay. But in this case, you don't see the person, the other person. It's
so
just
face-to-face with the research assistant?
Yes, you are. You are.
In both cases?
Yeah. In both cases, yes. What's nice about this, by the way, is that depending on the day, the museum raised between $600 and $2,000 in these days, compared with 0 before, right? So it's clear, it's talking about ROI. The investment is 0. The return is positive. I guess that's good, right? So we should try and do stuff like that, right? So that's
the previous slide, were those the exact scripts that were used?
Yes.
So in the first one, there was no prompt of how much do you want to pay?
Right. That's the difference between the wording, but it's really robustness, and you'll see we have 8 experiments here. It's all the same. We wanted to see that there is no cannibalization at the store, something that, if you try to convince the museum to use it, you have to convince them that if people pay more or if there is something different in the way they're treated, they don't spend less money. We gave them some stickers on their ticket, which was glued to them. No difference, first of all, no difference in the difference that we had before. Still paid forward, people pay more, and they don't spend less money in the store, right? So that was important for the charity or the museum in this case. It's important that you don't just waste your money on this and then it disappears. My screen died. Okay, so now I have to guess because the screen doesn't work. That was non-profit. We wanted to see it also with profit. That's a coffee stand in the Bay Area somewhere. Farmers market on Sundays, right? And sell coffee. Usually it costs $3. In this case, the same as before. People go. The way the randomization was done is each time 100 people passed by, a new treatment started. Again, same story. Pay forward, people pay more, then pay what you want, right? So I hope that by now, 4 field experiments, lots of effort. Those of us who ran field experiments know that it's very easy to show them over here in 10 minutes, but it's lots of work, and they all seem to indicate the same result. Paid forward, for some reason, at least in these 2 environments, raise some kind of different behavior. Rephrasing, paid forward did not store sell, but now we wanted to see what happens. What's the mechanism, right? So what's going on with it? I have to warn the economist in the room that some deception is going to be involved in the next experiment. So if you want to walk out or something, that's the time to do that. Right. Right. Understandable. It's
one purist in every group.
Right. So these students came to the lab for 30 minutes. They got $10, and then they got this mug. And again, they had to decide whether they want to we had to pay what we want and pay it forward. And we tried to manipulate a few things. One of them is social distance. So that was your question, I think, before, whether you see the other person. So you didn't see another person, but you saw Sarah. Sarah was a Confederate, right? The research assistant that, either you saw that she was before you and she paid for you. In other treatment, you were told that she's after you and you will pay for her, or the control. We know that social distance work in many cases. In this case, we could see that basically it had no effect. If anything, well, not if anything, it just didn't have an effect, right? So at least in our lab environment, it did not change the way they behaved. The next one was an experiment, similar thing as before, but now the people get this note. And they can have 3 types of messages. They don't choose. They are randomly assigned to treatments. Either they can write, I can show you, either they can write a message on this, whatever message they want, or they can write the price, or they can do both, right? So 3 treatments, well, and the control, right? So, right, I don't know why, right, why was sorry this person, but yes. Okay, so those were the 3 treatments, and we wanted to see what happens over here. And something interesting happened over here. So it turns out that when the people indicate how much money they're going to pay to the next person, they pay more, right? But at least they don't pay less when they can justify low payments. We thought that, maybe if I can justify why I'm not paying, I will pay less. That didn't happen over here. So if I tell you, look, I paid X dollars, I'm going to pay more. If I just send you a message or whatever, that doesn't reduce the amount that you pay.
Can I lie about how much I paid?
I don't think so.
So you check
Yes. Okay, so now comes the information part, right? Information seems to be really important. So in this case, the information, that's the lying part, the deception part. In this case, they were told that the person before them paid $1.50. Right? So that's what they were told in this case. And in this case, they didn't have a knowledge of how much the person before them paid. That turned out to be important. So everything that we did so far in the lab didn't influence what they did, but we see that this one did. Right? So if they know how much the person before them paid, that really influences it in a negative way, right? So they pay much less than they do otherwise. I'll show you some variation with the prices. It's only when they don't really know how much the other person paid. For some reason, knowing doesn't influence the pay what you want, but influences the paid forward, right? And this one is done with 50 cents and 250, the same. So in one case, you're told that the person before you paid 50 cents. In the other case, the person before you paid 250. The total amount seems to have an effect, right? So you do take this as a cue of how much you should pay, but the difference between the pay what you want and pay it forward disappears. Okay? And the final one is in a very appropriately named restaurant, right? Karma Kitchen, San Francisco. Berkeley?
Yeah.
Berkeley. Indian restaurant in Berkeley that on Sunday night, right, has a pay what you want meal. You go there. Those are, by the way, Mina's research assistant. She likes them a lot, so she asked me to put it. For some reason, they're cooking the food. I don't know why. But in one case, they got this message, right? The message says, thanks for coming to Karma Kitchen today. Someone before you paid, how much do you want to pay? And the second message was, trying to make this, you're paying for the next person. All right, so try to control what they feel about who they're paying for and what they do, and very similar results, right? So giving, not very similar, but giving versus receiving seems to have a big influence on what happens. I think I'm done.
Questions from the audience? Go ahead.
Curious about the $3 cups of coffee. How much coffee was sold versus when it was retailing for $3?
That's a really important question. So we do see a difference in the pay what you want that we did before. It turns out that when you do, so we had the big one that we did in Disney, for example, we had one that was pay what you want, another one pay what you want, and half went to charity, Make-A-Wish Foundation, so something that you really care about. And what we saw is that when the sign said pay what you want and half goes to charity, less people approached. About half of the people approached than before. Those who actually came, they paid much more. They paid like 5 times more than the group in the pay what you want, in the regular pay what you want. So once you introduce charity to this, the reason I'm saying is, it is that when you change the pricing, you may change whether people come to you or not, right? So maybe, people will see the pay what you want, they say, oh, I want nothing with this. So there are nice experiments in which people try, in this kind of kiosk, try to give money to people and people just go by, they don't want to take it. In this case, we didn't have this problem because when they came, they didn't know that it's a pay what you want. So there weren't signs or something like that. It was just, when they were served the coffee, they were asked, today's pay what you want, how much do you want to pay? So we didn't have it, but in general, it is a problem because, and we wrote papers with our interpretation of why we see less people, but we see less people when it's, when you introduce charity also into this. So you see the effect on the numbers.
When you're comparing the two treatments of giving them information about like the $1.50 or
Right.
the other one, did you control for if people have correct expectation of the average? Like, did you give them, for example, have a treatment that give them correct information of the average contribution?
Well, so it's much easier when you can cheat. You don't need to give them the correct one. You can get the entire distribution. You tell them half $1, $1.50, and $2.50,
yeah,
right?
They just know the previous person, right? Not that this is the average.
Oh, so if we would have told them, look, the average was instead of the person before you, so that might have been a stronger. We did not do that.
That's the norm.
Right, we did not do that. I think that you do get some information about the norm, and that's what I do. When I go to a new place, I ask what's the tipping norm, right? Because I don't know how much I should tip, right? I just want to know what's the right thing to do. Pay what you want like this. I've never been in an experiment before. I never paid for a mug before, so I don't really know. So I just use this as information.
One nice feature, surely of some of the field experiment, one nice feature is that you probably would have had the regular price posted in some of them, not all of them.
Right.
But that would have, it's not the same thing that you're talking
Right.
about, but it would have given some.
Right. That could have been an anchor. So in some cases, when you buy an album, you know that usually a CD, whatever, if there are still CDs, cost $10, right? So usually you have some kind of anchor. About these mugs, I don't know if they have an
So in
anchor.
the lab, maybe people, maybe I think that the average should be something, $10 or something, so that the last person would really need.
Right, so it's not even clear why would you say that he was mean to you, because you're not affected by this, right? So it's, the whole point is that we just change the framing and it becomes, like you said, he was mean to me or he was nice to me, right? Some kind of interpretation of, he was nice to me, I should be nice to the next person. When he wasn't nice to you, he was nice to the seller, right? So it's kind of interesting that the different framing just raises some different way of thinking.
Okay, one last question. John, you should come and get set up. Go ahead.
My question was a variation of that. In the last example, when people are buying meals for the person after them, is the idea maybe, or part of what's going on, that they don't know what that person's going to spend or how much they're going to eat, so they might want to estimate it?
Yes.
As opposed to a cup of coffee where you know exactly what the person's getting.
Right, yes, but why would you have to be always overestimation? Why not sometimes underestimation? So you can expect noise, but that should cancel it. Thanks.
Okay, super, thanks.
Nope, I was sitting there.